Hello, this is Eloisa with Math Leopard. Today we are going to look at the astrological postulates of Marcus Manilius, whose influence is seen in the writings of Claudius Ptolemaeus, known to us as Ptolemy. Based on knowledge retained by the Egyptian priestly classes, Manilius imparts to us his own understanding therewith in a beautiful didactic poem we call the Astronomica. Winged fire soared aloft to ethereal reaches, and, compassing the rooftops of the starry sky, fashioned the walls of the world with ramparts of flame. What's more, his analysis blends effortlessly with the processional phenomenon whose effects are accounted for in Vedic astrology. To begin, let us consider the assignment of the 5 planets and 2 greater luminaries to the constellations of the Zodiac. Leo and Cancer are first, to which the Sun and Moon are attributed, respectively. As these are the greater luminaries, they are assigned a single constellation, whereas the 5 remaining planets are assigned 2 each as follows. On either side of Leo and Cancer lie the constellations of Virgo and Gemini, expanding outward from Earth. The first planet we encounter is Mercury, ruler of these 2 constellations. On either side of Virgo and Gemini lie the constellations of Virgo and Taurus, who are under the reign of Venus. Next are the constellations of Scorpio and Aries, ruled by the planet Mars. On either side of Scorpio and Aries lie the constellations of Sagittarius and Pisces, ruled by benevolent Jupiter. Finally, the remaining 2 constellations, which, like Leo and Cancer, follow one another along the ecliptic, are Capricorn and Aquarius, subjected to the rule of Saturn. We now consider the classical aspects between the signs, whether benevolent or malefic. Trine aspects are those groups of 3 constellations evenly spaced about the zodiac. For example, Leo, Sagittarius, and Aries form one trine relationship and are generally amicable. However, Manilius does differentiate between the signs which are human, bestial, and bicorporeal, the latter of which is represented by Sagittarius, stating that 2 signs who differ in form create enmities. On the topic of enmities, those trine groupings which oppose one another are also considered malefic. Hence the trine grouping of Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini lie in opposition to those of the first trine grouping in pink. There are 2 remaining trine groupings, namely Virgo, Capricorn, and Taurus, which lie in opposition to the trine of Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Generally, those constellations which lie in the same trine aspect are benevolent. Proceeding to the square aspect, Manilius does not attribute to it malefic influence. Rather, in comparison to the trine aspect, he states, "The trigon's power is far greater than the quadrat. The side of the quadrat signs is higher, and their perimeter farther removed from us, whilst the side of a trigon travels closer and draws away from heaven. Their vision draws nearer to earth, and sends down to our atmosphere an air tempered by their influences." Hence the more remote, albeit benevolent, square aspects include Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, and Aries, next to whom lies Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Taurus, followed by Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces, and Gemini. The sextile aspects serve mostly to delineate the masculine signs from the feminine. Hence, every other sign beginning with Aries, Gemini, Leo, Libra, Sagittarius, and Aquarius is considered male, hearkening back to the attribute of odd numbers to male and even numbers to female espoused by the Pythagoreans. Hence, the female signs encompass the remaining 6, including Virgo and Cancer, more intuitively female than those with whom they share this aspect, namely Scorpio, Capricorn, Pisces, and Taurus. We now consider the oppositional aspect, which is across the board malevolent. Hence Aries and Libra, Taurus and Scorpio, Gemini and Sagittarius, Cancer and Capricorn, Leo and Aquarius, and finally Virgo and Pisces are aspects which create tension and adversity. For those like myself, born during the full moon, our 2 greater luminaries stand in opposition. Unlike Ptolemy, who classifies the masculine signs as diurnal, and the feminine signs as nocturnal, Manilius partitions the zodiac into alternate groupings of 2 adjacent signs. Hence the diurnal signs encompass both Pisces and Aries, Cancer and Leo, and Scorpio and Sagittarius. meaning the nocturnal signs include Taurus and Gemini, Virgo and Libra, and Capricorn and Aquarius. What this system allows for is both the diurnal feminine and the nocturnal masculine, enabling more nuanced divinations. Beyond aspects, Manilius assigns seasons to the zodiac as well. Seasons which ironically have greater astronomical parity today than they did 2,000 years ago. To the season of spring is assigned Pisces, Aries, and Taurus. To summer are Gemini, Cancer, and Leo. To autumn is assigned Virgo, Libra, and Scorpio. And to winter are Sagittarius, Capricorn, and Aquarius. This is where the concept of Vedic astrology overlaps, in that precession has moved us 29 degrees retrograde within the zodiac, meaning that the information imparted by Manilius was apropos to the heavens when he lived, at the dawn of the age of Pisces. Next we consider those signs which can see one another, called videntia. For this list, I've sided with convention, as Manilius's pairings leave two signs uncoupled. Hence, Gemini and Cancer, Taurus and Leo, Aries and Virgo, Pisces and Libra, Aquarius and Scorpio, and then Capricorn and Sagittarius see one another. It's important to note that none of these are in oppositional aspect. Now we consider those signs which can hear one another, termed audientia. Once again, I've erred on the side of convention rather than omit two signs from the pairings. To that end, Aries and Pisces, Taurus and Aquarius, Gemini and Capricorn, Cancer and Sagittarius, Leo and Scorpio, and finally Virgo and Libra listen to one another. Once again, none of these pairings are mal-aspected. To each of the signs of the zodiac is assigned a guardian deity, not to be confused with a ruling deity, as well as the part of the body over which that sign rules. To Aries is assigned the head, guarded by Minerva. Taurus influences the neck and is guarded by Venus. Gemini rules the arms and is guarded by Apollo, whereas Cancer rules the chest and is guarded by Mercury. Leo influences the sides and is himself guarded by Jupiter, whereas Virgo rules the belly, watched over by Ceres. Libra rules the loins and is guarded by Vulcan, yet Scorpio rules the groin and is guarded by Mars. Sagittarius influences the thighs and is guarded by Diana, and Capricorn rules the knees, guarded over by Vesta. Next, Aquarius rules the shanks and is guarded by Juno, and then Pisces rules the feet, guarded over by Neptune. Ruminate on each of these properties and corporeal attributes when considering your chart. These aspects alone encompass innumerable combinations, reinforcing the uniqueness and distinction of the path appointed us. Yet there are considerably more ways to differentiate, not the least of which is by partitioning each sign into decans and dodecatomores, relating to division by 10 and 12, respectively. To begin, I'll place Aries on top, in deference to the apis bull of Egyptian antiquity. Or to quote Manilius himself, "Resplendent in his golden fleece, the ram leads the way, and looks back in wonder at the backward rising of the bull, who with lowered face and brow summons the twins." We note that there are 360 degrees in the circle of the heavens, which are divided evenly amongst the signs of the zodiac. Hence to each sign is allotted 30 degrees of arc. The decans are those partitions which subtend 10 degrees of arc, assigning 3 to each sign. The Egyptian method of decans assigned 36 10-day periods in which to observe the rising of stars throughout the year. Later astrologers assigned to each of the decans the 7 planets of antiquity, namely Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, and the Moon. However, beginning with Mars in the first decan of Aries, the 36th decan, being one more than a multiple of 7, was allotted once again to Mars, leaving 2 Mars decans beside one another. Manilius assigns to the decans the constellations of the zodiac. Beginning with Aries in the first decan of Aries himself, we have that Aries, Taurus, and Gemini are assigned to the first, second, and third decan, respectively, followed by Cancer, Leo, and Virgo assigned to the decans of Taurus, Libra, Scorpio, and Sagittarius to the decans of Gemini, and finally Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces to the decans of Cancer. These are the 12 signs of the zodiac, which repeat their assignment throughout the decans of Leo, Virgo, Libra, and Scorpio, and then once again through the remaining 4 signs of Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. This distribution is perfect, as each sign is allotted to exactly 3 decans. Next is the dodecatomori partition of each sign. Given that this is division by 12, it follows naturally that each 12th belonged to a sign of the zodiac. While this is true, the assignment differs for each sign. Beginning with Aries, we assign the dodecatomores to Aries through Pisces. However, the assignment of the dodecatomores of Taurus begin with Taurus and end with Aries. So it is that to each sign's dodecatomores it assigns the 12 signs of the zodiac, beginning with the sign in which they reside. To zoom in, we see that the dodecatomores of Cancer begin with Cancer and end with Gemini, whereas those for Capricorn begin with Capricorn and end with Sagittarius. It's important to note that the beginning of each sign is read counterclockwise. Hence we increase in degree from top to bottom in Cancer at left, whereas we increase in degree from bottom to top in Capricorn on the right. We see that every 5 degrees is subtended by 2 dodecatomores, hence each one is allotted 2.5 degrees of arc. Where the planets begin to play a role in this partitioning process is in what's termed the planetary dodecatomores. These take each of the dodecatomores and partition them into 5 parts, allotted to the lesser luminaries. For example, if we zoom in on the dodecatomori of Gemini within Capricorn, he himself will be divided into 5 parts, allotted to Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, and Mercury. This then repeats in the dodecatomori of Leo. Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, and Mercury. These 2 dodecatomores subtend 5 degrees of arc. Hence the planetary dodecatomores subtend 1/10 that amount, or 0.5 degrees of arc, meaning on the equinox every 2 minutes of passing time corresponds to a different planetary dodecatomori. We now consider the athla, or lots, the most well-known of which is the lot of fortune. However, there are 12 lots, which can be found in the following manner. To begin, we must know the ascendant sign, or horoscopos, on the eastern horizon, and the okkasus, or occidental sign, the sign overhead, or medium caelum, denoted by MC, and that directly underfoot, or imum caelum, denoted by IMC. The position of the first athla, the lot of fortune, is found in 2 different ways, depending on the position of the sun above or beneath the horizon. The diurnal calculation is to find the distance from the moon to the sun and then subtend that same distance from the ascendant beneath the horizon. In this example, the lot of fortune is in Virgo. The nocturnal calculation has us once again find the distance from the moon to the sun. However, we then subtend this distance from the ascendant above the horizon. Hence, in this example, the lot of fortune resides in Aries. In general, the athla are attributed as follows, and should not be confused with the houses, a listing of which will follow presently. If the lot of fortune is in the 12th house, as seen here in Gemini, then the athla are as follows. The lot of fortune governs the home. The second lot is to warfare, the third is to business, and the fourth is to the law. The fifth is to marriage, and the 6th is to means. The 7th is to dangers, and the 8th to social class. The 9th is to children, and the 10th is to character. The 11th is to health, and the 12th is to success. What is important is how these overlap with the classical houses, or dodecatropos. The first house is always on the ascendant, the abode of Mercury, called Stilben, and corresponding to life. The second house is the abode of Pluto, called Typhon, and governing riches. The third house is the abode of the moon, called Dea, and the area of siblings. The fourth house is the abode of Saturn, called Daemonium, and the region of ancestors. The fifth house is the abode of Venus, named Daemonia, corresponding to descendants. The 6th house is the abode of Mars, called Mala Fortuna, and concerning health. The 7th house is the abode of Pluto, called Ditis Janua, corresponding to marriage. The 8th house is called the abode of Typhon, and corresponds to death, whereas the 9th house is the abode of the sun, called Deus, corresponding to journeys. The 10th house is the second abode of Venus, called Fortuna, and corresponding to kingdom. The 11th house is the abode of Jupiter, called Bonus Daemon, ruling over friendship. Finally, the 12th house is the abode of Saturn, termed Malus Daemon, ruling over that which imprisons us. Once again, we see that if we overlap the Athla and the Dodecatropos to the already infinite array of possibilities seen earlier, we get an immensely rich tapestry of characteristics imbued into our person by the heavens. Finally, I'd like to cover that partition of time to which the 7 planets of antiquity are perfectly attributed, namely the 7 days of the week and the hours which inhabit them. Beginning with Saturn and Saturday, we have that the 7 planets are Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, and the Moon. Given that there are 24 hours in each day, these 7 are attributed to Saturday 3 times in hours 1 through 7, 8 through 14, and 15 through 21. The remaining 3 hours of Saturday are given to Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars. The next planet after Mars is the Sun, leading us directly into Sunday, with Sun, Venus, Mercury, Moon, Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars repeated 3 times, ending with the Sun, Venus, and Mercury, which is followed by the Moon or Monday. Hence the first 7 hours of Monday correspond to the Moon, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, and Mercury, repeated 3 times and then ending with the Moon, Saturn, and Jupiter, after which follows Mars and Tuesday. Hence the hours of Tuesday are allotted to Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, Moon, Saturn, and Jupiter 3 times, followed by Mars, Sun, and Venus. After Venus follows Mercury or Wednesday, whose first 7 hours are Mercury, Moon, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, and Venus. These, of course, repeat 3 times, and the night ends with Mercury, Moon, and Saturn, followed by Jupiter for Thursday, whose first 7 hours are Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, Moon, and Saturn, repeated 3 times throughout the day and night, ending with the hours of Jupiter, Mars, and the Sun. Venus, following the Sun, corresponds to Friday. Hence the first 7 hours of Friday are allotted to Venus, Mercury, Moon, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, and the Sun. These repeat 3 times, followed by Venus, Mercury, and the Moon. We note that the next day would begin with Saturn, arriving back at Saturday, completing the cycle perfectly. It's important to note that these correspond to the natural hours of day and night. One natural hour is defined alternately as the hours of daylight divided by 12 or the hours of darkness divided by 12. But how can we determine the hours of light or darkness each day? Let's define delta as the solar declination, which varies between 23.5 degrees north along the Tropic of Cancer to 23.5 degrees south along the Tropic of Capricorn. My calculations will be for the northern hemisphere. Next, we let phi be our latitude, and h be what's termed the hour angle, meaning 1 hour angle is 360 degrees over 24, or 15 degrees of arc. Note that the hour angle is 0 degrees at local noon. The relationship between these 3 variables is given as cosine of the hour angle h being equivalent to minus tangent of the latitude phi times tangent of the solar declination delta. As an example, the length of a natural hour on San Clemente Island, located at 33 degrees north on the summer solstice, hence a solar declination of 23.5 degrees, reduces to minus a quantity 0.64941 times a quantity 0.43481. Giving us negative 0.28237. Solving for the hour angle h gives us 106.4 degrees. Dividing this by 15 degrees gives us a time of 7.09 hours before and after local noon. That is, both morning and afternoon amount to 7 hours, 5 minutes, and 36 seconds on the summer solstice. Given that there are 12 natural hours of daylight, 6 before noon and 6 after noon, we divide this result by 6, giving us a natural hour of length 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 56 seconds along the 33rd parallel. I hope this video inspires you to analyze the date, day, and time of your birth, as we are all as infinitely complex as our charts imply. Thanks for playing, and I'll see you next time.